I need to tell you something about the night I stopped trusting sounds. Not sounds in general, specific sounds. The ones that should be the safest sounds in the world, the sounds of the people and animals you love, the sounds that your nervous system has been trained over years to associate with safety and home and the absence of threat. The sounds that, when you hear them in the dark, make you relax instead of tense. I used to have a dog named Hector, a 7-year-old black lab, 75 pounds, the kind of dog that had never met a stranger and had never in his life given me a reason to be afraid. He had a specific vocabulary of sounds. The low whine he made at the back door when he needed to go out. The deeper groan he made when he was settling into his bed. The particular bark he reserved for squirrels versus the different bark he used for people he didn't recognize at the door. I knew every sound he made. After 7 years of sleeping in the same house, I knew them the way you know the rhythm of your own heartbeat. This happened in October. I was living alone in a rural property in western Pennsylvania, about 12 acres, mostly wooded, the nearest neighbor close to a mile away. I had bought it specifically because I wanted the quiet. I had lived there for 3 years without incident. October 14th, I was asleep. Sometime after 2 a.m., I checked the clock after and it read 2:23. I heard Hector whine. The low whine, the backdoor whine, the sound he made when he needed to go outside. I pulled myself out of sleep. This wasn't unusual. He was getting older, and his bladder wasn't what it used to be. I sat up, already reaching for the lamp. The whine came again. Low, specific, completely recognizable, from the direction of the bedroom door, the direction where Hector slept every night. I turned on the lamp. Hector was not at the bedroom door. Hector was on his bed in the corner, not at the door, on his bed, curled on his side, deeply asleep, his ribcage rising and falling with the slow breath of a dog who had been deeply asleep for some time. Not moving, not awake, not anywhere near the door where the whine had come from. I sat in the lamplight and looked at my sleeping dog. The whine came again. From the bedroom door, closer this time. Still his whine, his specific, unmistakable, 7 years familiar whine, coming from directly in front of the closed bedroom door, from a space I could see clearly in the lamplight. There was nothing there. The closed bedroom door, the floor in front of it, empty. Hector did not stir. He slept through a sound that should have woken him if he was making it. He slept through a sound that was, to every perceptive measure I possessed, his. I did not open the bedroom door. I sat with my back against the headboard with the lamp on until dawn. Hector woke up at 6 a.m., stretched, wagged at me in his usual way, and went to the bedroom door and whined to go outside. His whine in that moment was identical to what I had heard at 2:23 a.m. Identical, same pitch, same duration, same specific quality that my nervous system associated with him and only him. I took him outside. I stood in the October morning and watched him sniff around the yard, and I did not go back inside for a long time. I have researched this. There are documented cases of acoustic mimicry in wildlife species that can reproduce sounds with remarkable accuracy. There is a species of bird called the lyrebird that can reproduce almost any sound it has been exposed to, including mechanical sounds, with accuracy that researchers describe as extraordinary. There are other animals with documented mimicry capacity. There are theories about certain sounds carrying in certain atmospheric conditions in ways that create auditory illusions, about old houses and their acoustic properties, and the way they can channel and redirect sound in ways that are not intuitive. I have these explanations available to me. I have examined them carefully. None of them account for the fact that the sound came from inside a closed room, from 3 feet in front of a closed door, at a consistent volume, at a consistent distance, for 3 separate iterations, all while the animal whose voice it was slept undisturbed 8 feet away. I still live in that house. Hector died 2 years ago of cancer at the age of 9. I miss him every day. And I still hear him sometimes. At night, the low whine from various parts of the house from various distances, always when I am alone, always in the dark hours. I have never opened a door toward it. I have thought about what that means, about what I am acknowledging by refusing to open the doors, about what I am implicitly accepting as possible when I turn away from a sound that I loved for 7 years. I don't have a good answer. I just know I don't open the doors. My son's name is Caleb. He was 9 years old when this happened. I want to be very precise about everything in this account, because I have been over it so many times that I need the precision. I need the concrete details to anchor it against the pull toward explanation, toward rationalization, toward the comfortable conclusion that there is an ordinary account for an ordinary event. There is no ordinary account. I have looked for 3 years. We were camping. A state forest in northern Michigan, a campsite we had used several times before, an area we knew reasonably well. Just the 2 of us, Caleb and me. His mother and I had separated the previous year, and this was one of our regular father-son weekends. He loved the woods. He had been camping since he was 4. He was comfortable in the dark, comfortable with wildlife sounds, not a child who was easily frightened. We had been at the site for 2 nights without incident. The 3rd night, the final night before we drove home, we sat by the fire until around 10 and then went to bed. Caleb was asleep within minutes. I stayed awake longer, listening to the fire die, and then I slept. I woke up at 1:40 a.m. Not gradually, fully, immediately, with the specific quality of alertness that the body produces when something in the environment has triggered the threat response before the conscious mind can even process what it heard. I lay completely still and I listened. From the tree line, approximately 40 feet from our tent, where the campsite ended and the forest began, I heard my son's voice. "Dad." One word, his voice. His specific voice, the one I knew better than any sound in the world, the slight roughness of it, the way it carried, the particular acoustic quality that was his and had been his since he first started speaking. At 9 years old, at 1:40 in the morning, from the tree line 40 feet away. I turned to look at Caleb's sleeping bag. He was there, asleep, completely still. The sleeping bag moved with his breathing. "Dad." Again, from the trees, closer I thought, or perhaps the same distance, the sound simply clearer in the night air. I did not respond. Something, not logic, not training, not any conscious decision, but something older and more fundamental than any of those, told me with absolute clarity not to respond, not to say anything, not to make a sound. Caleb's sleeping bag continued to move with his breathing. He was asleep. He was asleep 8 feet from me, inside a tent, and his voice was calling me from outside. "Dad, Dad, come here." 3 words this time. The slight impatience that crept into his voice when he'd been asking for something for a while and thought he wasn't being heard. I knew that exact inflection. I had heard it 10,000 times in 9 years. I reached out very slowly and put my hand on Caleb's shoulder through the sleeping bag. He was solid, warm, real. His breathing continued, the slow, deep, unconscious breathing of a child in deep sleep. The voice outside said, "Dad, I'm cold." I have tried to describe what I felt in the following seconds to several people over the past 3 years, to my ex-wife, to a therapist, To two friends I trust deeply enough to tell this story to, and I have never found adequate words for it. The closest I can get is this: it was the specific horror of something that knows you, not something that has observed you from a distance and approximated your patterns. Something that knows the particular frequency of your love, the exact acoustic signature of the person you would do anything to protect, and has found a way to use that knowledge against you. Because every instinct in my body wanted to go to that voice. Every piece of me that had spent 9 years responding to my son, every neural pathway that had been carved by a decade of parenthood, wanted to unzip the tent and go to him. Even knowing, even with my hand on his shoulder, even feeling him breathe, even knowing with absolute certainty that the voice was not him, the pull was almost physical. I did not unzip the tent. I lay my body across Caleb's sleeping bag, my weight on top of his, and I put my mouth close to his ear, and I said his name very quietly. He woke up, groggy, confused. I told him I needed him to stay quiet and not move. He was a good kid. He stayed quiet, he didn't move. The voice outside said his name. Caleb. Just his name, not an attempt to get him to respond. Not Caleb, come here, or Caleb, wake up. Just his name. Said in a voice that was not his, that was not any voice I recognized, said with a patience that had no quality of childhood in it at all. Caleb heard it. I felt him go rigid under me. He had been half asleep, but he heard it, and his body knew before his mind did. He didn't say anything. Neither did I. We lay in the tent in the dark, and we did not say anything for a long time. The voice did not come again. At first light, 5:30, maybe the woods goy. Ng Gray, I got Caleb up and we broke camp in 25 minutes. We drove out before 7. We stopped at a diner 40 minutes down the highway and Caleb ate pancakes and did not talk and then asked me what it had been. I told him I didn't know. That was 3 years ago. He's 12 now. He has not been camping since. He hasn't asked to go. I have not suggested it. I looked into it afterward. I contacted a wildlife biologist whose research I found online. I described what I had heard, not the content, just the quality. She told me that certain vocalizations in nature can carry acoustic properties that the human ear interprets as speech. She told me that sounds in forested areas can carry and reflect in unusual ways at night due to temperature inversions and acoustic ducting. I asked her if any animal native to northern Michigan was capable of producing human speech with enough accuracy to be identified as a specific individual. She said no. I asked her what she thought I had heard. She said she didn't know. I've thought about that conversation many times, about the fact that someone whose entire professional life is dedicated to understanding what lives in forests told me she didn't know. Caleb knows I haven't found an explanation. He asked me once if I thought it was real, if the thing in the woods was real. I told him the truth. I said, I think there are things in the world that are real enough to be dangerous without being real in the way we're taught things have to be real. He thought about that for a long time. Then he said, I know. I could feel that it wanted me to answer. He was 9 years old. He understood instinctively what it took me 3 years to articulate. The thing in the woods wanted him to answer because answering would mean leaving the tent. That's what I think about when I think about it at night. What would have happened if he had answered? I don't think about it very often. I try not to. But when I do, I stay very still, and I make sure I know exactly where in the room my son is. And I do not answer any voice that I cannot see the source of. This one is harder to explain than the others, because it has a technological dimension that should make it easier to explain, and somehow makes it harder. In October 2021, I received a phone call from my own phone number. I understand what that sentence means to most people. I understand that spoofing exists. That caller ID is not a reliable indicator of the actual source of a call. That there are applications and services that allow someone to place a call that displays any number they choose. That phone scammers use this routinely. That it is one of the more well-documented forms of telephone fraud. I know all of this. I knew it at the time. I answered the call anyway because the number on the screen was my own and because something in the moment made me pick up. I cannot tell you what that something was. It was not logic. It was the same not logic that makes you check the closet even when you know the closet is empty. The compulsion to verify. The need to be wrong. Hello. Not a question. My own voice. Not a voice that sounded like mine. Not a voice that approximated mine, my voice, with the specific quality that I hear when I listen to a recording of myself and recognize it with the particular unease that listening to your own recorded voice produces. The uncanny recognition of a sound that is simultaneously familiar and alien. My voice, saying hello. I said, "Who is this?" A pause, maybe 2 seconds. I need you to listen very carefully. My voice again, calm, deliberate, the pacing slower than I naturally speak, as if each word was being chosen with care. I know you don't believe this is possible. I need you to set that aside for a minute. I said, "What is this? Who is calling?" "You are," the voice said. "I'm calling to tell you not to go to Portland next week." I had plans to fly to Portland the following Tuesday. I had made these plans 4 days earlier. The flight was booked. The hotel was booked. I had told perhaps 3 people, my assistant, my friend whose birthday the trip was organized around, and a colleague I was meeting for a dinner while I was there. I had not posted about it. I had not mentioned it on any social media. The information was not publicly available anywhere. "How do you know about Portland?" I said. "Because I went," the voice said, "and I need you not to." The call ended. I sat with the phone in my hand for a long time. Then I did what any rational person would do. I thought through every possible explanation. Spoofing is real. Information leakage is real. People talk. And information travels in ways you don't anticipate, and it is entirely possible that someone who knew about Portland also had access to technology that allowed them to call me from my own number, and had done so as a prank or a manipulation or some other purpose I couldn't immediately identify. These explanations are all real. They all exist. They are all more probable by any reasonable standard than the alternative. I booked a different flight, different dates, different hotel. I went to Portland because canceling the trip entirely felt like surrender to something I couldn't name, but I went differently than I had planned. On the Tuesday I would originally have flown, the Tuesday the voice on the phone told me not to go, there was an incident at Portland International Airport. Not a crash, not a catastrophe, a gate fire, a section of the terminal evacuated, several hours of delays. The flight I would have been on was among the delayed flights. A delay, not a disaster. An inconvenience, not an injury. I have held this outcome in my mind many times, turning it over. The rational position is clear. The call was a scam of some kind. The information about Portland was obtained through normal means I was not aware of. And the airport incident was coincidence. The kind of coincidence that feels significant because we are pattern-seeking animals, because we construct narrative from coincidence the same way we hear voices in static. I accept this position intellectually. I have no resistance to it logically. What I cannot account for, what the rational position does not address, is the quality of the voice. Not the words, not the content, the voice itself, my voice. The specific and private qualities of a sound that I know from the inside, that I have heard played back on recordings and have always found faintly disturbing for the same reason everyone does. The uncanny gap between how you sound to yourself and how you sound to the world. The voice on the phone closed that gap. It was my voice as other people hear it, not as I hear it from inside my own skull. That is not something a spoofer can calibrate. That is not something you can achieve by approximation or synthesis, at least not with the technology that was available in October 2021, with the reliability and specificity that what I heard represented. I have not been able to explain how whatever called me Kay, knew what my voice sounded like from the outside, while calling from my own number in real time at a quality that I recognized with the specific, certain, gut-level recognition of a person hearing themselves. I went to Portland. Nothing happened to me. The gate fire was a minor incident, and most people who were delayed made their connections. But I think about the voice sometimes, the pacing of it, the deliberateness, the way it said I went, not I will go, not you'll go, but I went, past tense, as if it were reporting on something that had already occurred, as if it were calling from somewhere further, along a line that I am still traveling. I don't think about this during the day. I'm a functional person. I work, I have relationships, I eat breakfast and take the subway and live a life that is, by every measure, ordinary. But I no longer answer calls from numbers I don't recognize immediately. And sometimes, late at night, when my phone is charging on the nightstand and the screen lights up with an incoming call, I look at the number for a long time before I decide whether to pick up. On 3 occasions since October 2021, the number has been my own. I haven't answered. I don't know what it would say. I'm not sure I want to find out.